Okay, so let's talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. First of all, two lines are going to be parallel if they have the same slope. So these two lines would be parallel because they have the same slope. The first slope is -2 and the second slope is -2. If two lines are perpendicular, we say that the slopes are negative reciprocals. Now, what does it mean to be negative reciprocals? Well, it means you can just flip one of the slopes and change its sign, and that gives you the other slope. So if you look at 3/4 here, if I take -3/4 and I flip it, I get -4/3, and then if I change the sign, in this case it was negative, so I make it positive, I get +4/3, and over here I have 4/3. That's the slope of my second line. So because flipping and changing the sign of one of the slopes gives me the other slope, they're perpendicular. So that's what we're going to do. So let's look at some examples. We want to find out which of these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. In the first example, because both of the slopes are -2, I see that they are parallel. All right? And that's really all you do. In the second example, well, this is not parallel because the lines have to, or the slopes have to be exactly the same, including the sign. Now, if I take this and write it as 3/1, so if I take -3/1 and I flip it, I get -1/3, and then if I change the sign, the negative becomes a +1/3. Well, that's not what this number is. So flipping and changing the sign of the first one did not give me the slope of the second one, so this is not perpendicular. So because it's not parallel and it's not perpendicular, because it's neither one, you would just say neither. So that one is neither parallel nor perpendicular. And let me remind you with the drawing what parallel means. Parallel, if I come back up here, means the lines never cross. Perpendicular means the lines cross, but they cross in a special way. They cross at a 90-degree angle. So they have to cross at a 90-degree angle to be perpendicular. It doesn't matter if they cross, they have to cross at a 90-degree angle. Okay, if they cross at some other angle, they are not perpendicular. All right? Okay, so let's do some more examples like that. I start out with the first slope, and if I flip it, I get 3/2. And if I change the sign, I get -3/2. And if you compare that to the slope in the second equation, that's what you have. You have -3/2. So these are perpendicular. Okay. By the way, the symbol for perpendicular is that, and the symbol for parallel, in case you were wondering, is two long lines. It almost looks like an 11. Okay, in fact, the symbol for parallel is kind of hidden in the word parallel. There it is. Okay, so anyhow, let's look at the next one. If I take this number and I flip it, because obviously I can see these two lines are not parallel because the two numbers are not the same. The two numbers have to be exactly the same if the two slopes have to be the same if it's parallel. So the slopes are a little different, so it's not parallel. If I flip this, I get -5/3. And then if I change the sign, I get +5/3, which is not what I have here. So therefore, these were not parallel. And now we know they are not perpendicular. So they are neither one. They cross. They have to cross somewhere because they're not parallel, so they have to cross. But apparently wherever they cross, it's not at a 90-degree angle. Okay? So that's how you test to see if something is parallel or perpendicular. And hopefully you thought that was as cool as I did, because I thought it was pretty cool.